To put it simply, Sigma is on fire right now. And this Sigma 51.2 DGDN lens with the Sony E-mount and L-mount alliance is arguably their best art lens to date. Let's talk about it. All right, guys, as you see in front of me, I've got a lot of gear here. I'm not paid or sponsored by anybody. My thoughts only. I've got a Nikon Z9. You're probably thinking, Bobby, this is an E-mount, L-mount lens. How does this come into play? We'll talk about that. I've got an SL3. Been testing it primarily on this camera, so for you Leica fans out there, this video is for you. I've got the Sony 51.2 GM lens, one of the best 51.2s on the market currently right now, and it's also the shortest. We've got the Sigma 51.2 DGDN lens as well. Got it for the L-mount and as well as the E-mount. This is the lightest 51.2 in the market. And we've got the big boy, the Nikon Z 51.2 S-line lens. The biggest, well, the Canon one's pretty big too, but this is the tallest, I would say, and one of the heaviest 51.2s in the marketplace right now. How does this compare? We're gonna get down to it. Primarily, I took most of my photos on the SL3, so that's what we're gonna see throughout this video. But I will compare in terms of the optics a little bit with these lenses in terms of the autofocus, but you're probably thinking, but where's the Sony camera? I have with me the Megadap Pro adapter, which works with the latest firmware from the Z9 and Z8 respectively. I mounted it to this camera and I tested it with this lens and it works flawlessly. As a matter of fact, you can record video with it. You can do whatever you want with it. It's almost like a native lens. A little bit of fluttering here and there, but you'll see some of that in some of the sample video, which I recorded with the Atomos Ninja 5. Anyway, let's cut to the chase and let's talk about the performance of this lens. First and foremost, it's a very, very sharp lens, wide open. It is a beautiful bokeh. It is arguably right there with the 51.2 GM lens in many respects, as well as the 51.2 Z-line lens. Where it does pull away a little bit is in terms of sharpness. It's slightly sharper than the Z-line. It's right up there with the Sony. It's neck and neck. You can barely tell the difference. It does offer the ability to have in-camera, aberration corrections depending on the camera that you use. But I would say that on its own, you might see a little bit of green fringing around higher contrast areas, though easy to correct, but it's something that you're going to notice. With the Sony, obviously it's corrected in the side camera, so there's gonna be some software involved with that, as well as the Nikon. But when I compare them all three on the Z9 respectively, they're pretty much neck and neck when it comes to aberrations. This is not an oppo lens, so you're not gonna see zero aberrations. You are gonna get some, but it is nothing to be worried about. But it's the image quality of the bokeh that is absolutely stunning. The fall off, I love this lens. It is coming at a premium, the most expensive 50mm lens in Sigma's lineup currently, but you are getting the best optics, and they're stating some of the best optics in the art lens lineup as a whole. Zero to minimal focus breathing when you're using it for video as well. So for videographers out there that want to use it for that, you're going to be very, very happy with this. And we saw this in the 70-200 as of late with that lens. I love that lens from Sigma. We're seeing that come into play. As I mentioned from the beginning, Sigma is on fire. Over the past number of months, from the 14-1.4, the 70-200 f2.8, the 505.6, and now this 51.2. Whatever fire was lit under the engineers at Sigma, keep going, man. These lenses are fantastic, respectively. Now, I did try it on the Sony A7RV, but there is something to take note of with any third-party lens when it comes to using it on a Sony camera system. The GM lenses or any Sony native lens will perform better on their respective cameras because you get the full capabilities in terms of, burst modes, et cetera, or, shutter speeds, especially if you're using it for the A9 III. You're not going to get that kind of performance here with the Sigma lens. So if you need that, stick with the Sony. By the way, fantastic lens. You can't fault it any way, shape, or form. But if you're just looking for a pure image quality, you don't care about speed, you don't care about all those other benefits that you're going to get out of a Sony native lens, then the Sigma is something to consider, especially for the price point. Now, when it comes to the L-mount alliance, it's a little bit more tricky because there's no 1.2 lens in the L-mount alliance as of late, outside of the Sigma 35-1.2. So in Leica's lineup, you've got the f2 Oppos, you've got the f2 Summicrons, and then you've got the 1.4 SL Summilux lens. Beautiful lens, but it is very big and very heavy. This lens, for a lot of people out there, is going to be a lens I see many Leica users picking up if they're into third-party lenses. But of course, it is the L-mount alliance. They all work well together. But there are some people that just want to have Leica lenses to their Leica body, and I get it, I respect it. But if you're a little bit more open-minded and see that, hey, look, Panasonic's doing some good stuff, Sigma's doing some good stuff, then putting it onto the SL3 is absolutely fantastic. I actually took it to the Porsche dealership in KL when I was talking about the SL3 for a talk a few days ago. I shot some cars, just doing some test shots. It worked great. There was a bearded lizard exhibition going on there. I used it with that as well. You're seeing some of the sample images. It's sharp, great colors coming out of this, the bokeh, the fall off, love it. Primarily shot it at 1.2, but when you do shoot it with strobes, stop it down. Wow, this is razor sharp, man. And it's not about sharpness. Look, lens quality is more than just sharpness, but it's color, it's tonality, it's the fall off, and this 51.2 just does a fantastic job. I'm very happy with it. And being the lightest 51.2 on the market currently, as of the time of this recording, around 745 grams for the L mount, 740 for the E mount. This is a surefire win for a lot of people out there. When I did mount it to the Z9, it was great, guys. It was really good. And you know, I love this lens from Nikon. I really do. But it's a hefty lens. It's a really big lens. And this lens has been out for a few years. So obviously, in time, Nikon will probably update this with maybe a shorter, even better performing lens because their optics are phenomenal. But as it stands right now, if you want to start adapting Sony lenses to your Z mount because you want it for size or whatever flexibility, this Megadap Pro adapter is not a bad choice. It's very thin. It doesn't add much, if anything, to the total length of the lens itself. It has electronic contacts, autofocusing, subject detection, all works great. You're seeing this right here as I'm talking about it. But in terms of continuous focus, if you're just going back and forth, I would say the S line is a little bit more precise where you might see a little bit of fluttering coming into play, but it's minimal. Again, if you need to adapt, you need to adapt, and this is gonna work great for you. It's kind of a short video, but guys, I am thoroughly impressed with this. And paired to the SL3 with the 60 megapixel sensor, no anti-alias filter to this thing. It is, the shots when you get them in focus are just beautiful. The tonality, the color, it is designed, it's gonna work great with the 60 megapixel sensor, guys. It is. I would highly recommend it. In terms of the specs inside of this lens, you've got 4 spherical elements. You've probably got a floating element design as well to correct for aberrations, 13 rounded aperture blades. This is Sigma's creme de la creme currently right now. The question is though, do you go for the 1.2, you go for the 1.4, you go for the f2 in Sigma's lineup, if you're into the Sigma family? Let's talk about that for a second. This is gonna come around 1,988 Singapore dollars, which is roughly around probably 1,500 USD thereabouts. I don't have that price point, but you'll see it when this is launched through other various videos. The 51.4 is around $1,288 Singapore dollars, so that's gonna be under 1,000, probably 800, 900 respectively. And of course, the f2 is gonna be cheaper than that. When the 51.4 came out, I was okay with the lens. It's a nice lens, but it didn't wow me. And you know, Sigma they had big shoes to fill because the 51.4 lens that they made for the Nikon, F mount and EF mount respectively, was a fantastic lens. And many of you still own that lens and still use it to this day, I know that. So when the 1.4 DGDN lens for the mirrorless system came out there, I mean, they were already battling with Sony's, they were already battling with other options out there, and I don't quite think they hit the mark. This lens is a different story. This lens is one I would highly recommend getting if you have the budget and you have the means to, and if you are okay with third-party lenses. Again, Sony E-mount, you're not going to take advantage of the full, the full capabilities of the camera system, but for the L-mount alliance, Panasonic, Leica, Sigma for that matter, for the FP, FPL respectively, this lens is a no-brainer. You're going to love it. And I love how it performs. I love how it feels on the SL3. And when I put it in other people's hands, they were just shocked at how small and light it was comparatively, because 51.2s are usually a bigger lens. Canon RF, S-line lens, you know what I'm talking about here. This is a fantastic lens. Anyway, guys, short video, to the point. That's how I like to keep it here. I highly recommend it. Do try it out though and see for yourself. If you have any questions on the lens, hit me in the comment section below. Thank you guys for the support. I greatly appreciate it. And if you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell. More content on the way. Thanks again, and I will chat to you soon.